So this video is for you if you're just curious about this topic and want to know more, or if you think this might be a situation you'll be in the near future and you want some more information about tandem nursing your kids. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylyn and you're watching LovedHappy, your favorite place on YouTube for uplifting and motivational content about motherhood and God. And if this is your first time here, I'd love for you to subscribe and stick around. So today we're going to talk about something that's slightly controversial, and that's about tandem nursing my toddler and my newborn. She's not a newborn anymore. Why can't I get that through my head? She is 5 months old, but my little baby, who is much younger than my toddler. I don't think nursing a 5-month-old is controversial by any means, at least in this day and age. A lot of people have questions when it comes to nursing an older child. Well, she's not older, she's 2.5. She's still quite small, but she is a lot bigger than my baby. So I'm going to be talking about why I still nurse my older daughter, what it's like, the benefits of it, what my experience has been, and any downsides as well. I will also be answering when, if ever, I'm going to stop nursing my daughter. Will I stop when she's 3, 4, 5, 6, 10? I don't know. So if you're interested in that, just keep on watching. In regards to parenting, my philosophy is very open-ended. I'm someone who likes to approach each situation with an open mind. I'm not someone who adheres to a certain ideology and just wants to cram everything into that and make sure everything fits into that. I'm someone who is very open-minded and likes to assess a specific child situation, how it fits into my marriage and family. I'm absolutely not someone who thinks that I'm doing it the right way and that everyone should nurse their children until they're older, because everyone's situations are so different with their family, if they're working, how their milk supply is, if the child has any interest in that as well. So just to put that out there, that is my approach, and I respect everyone's choices, and I just wanted to share my experience with this because I personally never really thought I'd be nursing my daughter until she was 31 months and counting. So my older daughter is 31 months old, which sounds so old when you put it that way. Ever since she was a baby, she was very interested in nursing and nursing a lot. And that's super apparent now that I've had a second child and she is just not quite as interested in nursing. So a lot of it is specific to my older daughter, Ellie, and just what she's been interested in. When I got pregnant with my second daughter, I believe my oldest daughter was about 18 months old, and I didn't have any intention of stopping nursing, but during my pregnancy, I had extreme nursing aversion where it just felt like the most uncomfortable thing. It actually filled me with rage to nurse her, which sounds terrible, but it was just the worst feeling ever. So I actually did try to cut back her nursing, because at that point, at 18 months, she was still nursing on demand, except for nighttime. But at that point, I was desperate. So first, I started by scaling back just to nursing before nap time and bedtime, and that did help. But the nursing aversion was so strong that I decided I wanted to wean altogether because I was just so uncomfortable, and I knew I'd have another baby coming soon. And she was 1.5 years old, so I had reached my goal. And while it made me sad, I just literally could not physically stand it anymore. So I tried, and I failed miserably because my daughter would just not nap. And when you're exhausted, when you have morning sickness, when you're really struggling in your first trimester, I just needed my daughter to nap so desperately, so I just endured it. And luckily, praise God, that aversion did pass sometime in the second trimester, and sometimes it'd be kind of uncomfortable, but it wasn't anything unbearable like previously. For the rest of the pregnancy, I had it in my mind to be open. I was open to her weaning herself. I was open to weaning her. I was just very open, like I said, to the situation and to see how she was doing with the whole nursing relationship and what I thought was best for her and everyone. So sure enough, the pregnancy continued on, and I was still nursing my daughter before nap and bedtime. And after a super intense labor, before I knew it, I was nursing both of my children. So it was something that I just kind of fell into, had put thought into, I had done some research, but it just seemed natural to continue nursing my other daughter. And I'm going to be talking about some of the great benefits that we have received from continuing on our nursing relationship, and some of the downsides as well. So one thing that really helped was before my baby was even here, we made sure my toddler knew that the baby was going to need to nurse a lot and need a lot of milk because the baby can't eat food. So we did a lot of explaining. We do a lot of communicating with my daughter. We never assume she can't understand things, and we really try and explain things to her, and that seemed to make a huge difference. In the early stages when I brought my newborn home, that was of course the most intense time, at least for my experience. Those first few months are super intense because you're feeding them all the time. They're so tiny and kind of fussy, and they just need a lot of love in that stage, and it takes a lot out of you. And overall, my older daughter transitioned really well, and that was actually a big benefit that I was looking forward to. is because my daughter, at least at that point, she's kind of outgrown it a little bit, but she was just the biggest mama's girl. I stayed at home with her and literally have been with her every day of her life. We do everything together and she loves to nurse. So I just was really hopeful that continuing on that relationship with her would really help to ease her into the transition of becoming an older sister and not being my only baby anymore. And I definitely noticed that it helped. And in those early days, I actually nursed Elia more than just before nap time and bedtime, because I would do it sometimes for comfort too, or occasionally if she asked. There have been just a few times where I have nursed them at the same time. In general, that's kind of difficult when you have probably a nearly 30-pound child and then a little baby to hold. It's kind of hard to do, and when you don't have to do it, why would I do it that way? It was very sweet and just kind of crazy to nurse them both at the same time. It's kind of a trippy experience and it's very beautiful at the same time, but I only really did it at the same time, kind of if I really felt pressed to do it at the same time. There also were and still are times when my daughter asks to nurse during the day and I tell her for different reasons that I can't, whether it's because mommy's really tired and she needs to respect mommy's body, or if mommy needs to save that milk for her baby sister. So I'm not just an open milk bar all day long to both my children, and that definitely helps to set those boundaries. So one benefit of continuing on nursing my older daughter is that she actually put me into labor when I was nursing her down at nighttime. There are a few things that are known to actually start labor, and nipple stimulation is one of them. It's a very powerful way to induce labor because it releases the hormone oxytocin, which is the labor hormone. So when I was 40 weeks, 4 days pregnant, and when I was putting my daughter down for bed, my contractions started and they were 3 minutes apart consistently. And I will link my birth story in the cards and down below in the description box if you want to listen to it. It was definitely an intense labor story, and I didn't leave out any of the juicy details. So if you want to watch that, you can click on that and watch it after you finish this video. But I was so ready to go into labor at that point, so that was definitely a big benefit of continuing on nursing my daughter. The next benefit, which is definitely one of my favorites, is that it's time to slow down and connect with my daughter. Certainly there's a lot more demands on you when you're caring for a new baby, and it's easy for your older child to feel overlooked, especially in the beginning stages, but I can just tell how much it meant to my daughter's heart and how positive it was for her and for myself to have that close moment with her throughout the day. Of course, children don't need that, and if you have two and you're not nursing, that's totally fine too. And if that's the case, you're obviously finding other ways to connect with your older child, but I have found our nursing sessions to be really sweet, and I also notice if I do nurse her at another time before nap or bedtime, like during the day, I do notice a big change in her behavior, whether she was tired or whether she had an owie or whatever the need was there. After I nurse her, she's always much more relaxed, and nursing her has a really positive effect on her demeanor and her behavior. Overall, I've just really appreciated that our nursing times have ensured that we'll get that time to connect together. Another amazing benefit of nursing my older daughter is the health benefits. Just because my daughter's older doesn't mean breast milk is any less healthy for her. And breast milk is called liquid gold for a reason. There are just so many amazing health benefits to breast milk. For example, it's the richest possible source of DHA, which is really important for brain development. So my daughter still gets a blast of all these nutrients every day. And I'm not saying there's an exact perfect correlation, but my daughter has been extremely healthy. My daughter is 2.5 and she has really only been sick 2 times. When she turned 1, she was sick with a fever for 2 days. And for the first time, just about a week ago, she got the flu for a few days. So besides a random runny nose, my daughter has only been sick twice, which is pretty amazing. So back when I only had her, when I only had one daughter in the early months, I got mastitis, and it was the worst experience. That's essentially an infection in a clogged duct. And one thing that I loved is that my older daughter is able to empty my breasts all the way. This was more so important when my second daughter was a newborn and you're engorged and you have a lot of milk, and lots of times in the beginning it's easy to get clogged ducts. So it was so nice and honestly such a physical relief when I was engorged to have my daughter take all the milk out of my breasts after my newborn was finished. That's another thing, is that I always make sure I feed my newborn first and that she has an adequate amount of milk and is always fed before I offer any milk to my toddler. I did that from the get-go and I still do that to this day. Along those lines, before I had my second baby, I was really nervous if I would have enough milk for both, but the woman body is so amazing, and because your supply is established in those first few weeks after giving birth, because I was nursing both my toddler and my newborn, my milk supply came in to match those levels, so I've never been at a shortage for milk for my girls. A few other great benefits is that my milk came in right away, because after you give birth, normally you wait 2 or 3 days before your milk comes in, but since my milk supply never really went away, I just got a lot more milk and it came in pretty much the next day after I gave birth, and that was just a nice little perk. Along those lines, I never experienced sore, cracked, or uncomfortable nipples. I definitely did with my first daughter when I started breastfeeding for the very first time. That was incredibly uncomfortable, but the second time, since my nipples were already used to nursing, it really was a seamless transition. I just had to make sure my second daughter had a good latch, and overall that whole experience was so much easier. In terms of the downsides of nursing both of them, I would say the main thing that I struggle with is feeling touched out, where I just don't want to give any more of myself because I'm just tired and I have just been touched enough, and sometimes I do struggle with that, especially at the end of the day. Overall, I've experienced very minimal judgment, I think, because the main reason is I rarely nurse my older daughter in public. I will occasionally at the park if she gets an owie or something, but for the most part I'm doing it in the comfort of our own homes, so there aren't other people looking in on the situation and making judgments, which definitely has made it easier. I feel like some people in my family kind of raise an eyebrow at this situation, but honestly I don't care. I'm just doing what works best for our family in the season. So how long will I continue to nurse her for? Am I going to go to 3 to 4? Honestly, my objective has been for her to self-wean, but I'm not set on that, and things have kind of been dwindling down in our nursing relationship, especially with the different health challenges I've been facing. I've had a lot less of myself to give, so I definitely could see things ending in a month or 2 months or something like that, but honestly I don't know. This is a situation that just kind of happened, and it's something that I've been okay with, and I'm very grateful for all the benefits of it, and it's just something that felt right along the way, which is why I've continued on doing it. But that is my experience nursing my 31-month-old and my little baby as well. I hope that this answered some of your questions. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Just leave them down below in the comments and I'll get back to you and answer them for you. Also, if you have any video requests, please let me know, because I love making content that you want to watch, so let me know. Anyways, I love you so much. I hope you have a beautiful day because you're absolutely worth it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!